Welcome to this Tutor to You Sociology topic video on demographic trends in the UK, looking at migration. One of the key trends that sociologists examine when looking at demographics is migration. But what is migration? Well, migration refers to the process of people moving from one geographical area to another. Now, this can be internal migration, say from Liverpool to London, or international migration from one country to another. There are several key terms that are associated with migration that sociologists refer to. Emigration is the movement of people out of a country, whilst immigration is the movement of people into a country. The most important in terms of the population, however, is net migration. Now, this is the number of people moving into a country less than movement of people out of a country. This is the figure that impacts greatest on the population, as it indicates how many more or less people there are in the UK in any given year. Over time, the net migration rate into the UK has changed dramatically. On the screen there is some data from the Office for National Statistics into migration to and from the UK over the past 50 years, and it demonstrates how the UK's migration has changed. In the late 1960s, there was significant migration out of the UK, resulting in more people leaving than entering, in part due to incentives for migration to Australia. Over the next 2 decades, migration settled down, and when in 1992 members of the EU became free to work and reside in other EU nations, the following year the UK reported a negligible net migration rate of less than 1,000 people leaving. In the following years, and as globalization increased, this grew. By 2004, and following the inclusion in the EU of 8 Eastern European nations, net migration had become nearly 250,000. Of course, this was also influenced by conflict in different parts of the world, such as Iraq, Afghanistan, Somalia and Libya. By 2015, net migration had increased to over 330,000, which demonstrates the impact of globalization on the UK. It's fallen in recent years, particularly in the aftermath of Britain's decision to leave the EU, and is currently around 200,000. Now we've seen the trends, we need to understand why people migrate. Sociologists often refer to what are called push and pull factors. Push factors are what drives somebody to emigrate from a country, pushing them out of one country, while pull factors are what draws them to another. It's important to note here that these vary from person to person, and often people will move for a short period of time to one place and then move on to another. Migration is not always permanent, particularly in the era of globalization. However, push factors include conflicts in the country. Either war or political conflict can make a nation undesirable to live in. A lack of employment is another. With many people moving for employment, job opportunities can often be seen as both a push and pull factor. Lack of resources and poverty are other push factors, and this is common with economic migration. For example, the mass migration to the US from Ireland in the latter part of the 19th and early part of the 20th century. And finally, political situation. Changes in ideology, such as the fall of communism in the late 1980s and early 1990s, led to many people from the former Soviet Union relocating to Western nations within Europe. Pull factors include education, with around 200,000 student visas granted to the UK each year from overseas students. Many people come to the UK for their education. Many remain, but lots of others move back to their country of origin. Standards of living and family connections are other reasons for moving into a country, whilst for many retirees, climate and lifestyle is a draw for warmer nations such as Spain, Australia and the south of France, with communities of British nationals emigrating to spend their latter years in the sun. One of the reasons for the increase in migration has been globalization. Greater cooperation between nations has led to free movement agreements for work and leisure. An example of this is the European Union, which, after the UK agreed to free movement, saw a growth of migration both into and out of European nations. Global conflicts have also created an acceleration of migration. In the 21st century, conflicts in northern and eastern Africa and the Middle East have led to an increase in refugees and asylum seekers, many of which head to European nations for refuge. And the global nature of employment has seen the spread of many Western companies into overseas markets, particularly in education, healthcare and manufacturing, and this has seen a growth of UK nationals working overseas. So what are the impacts of migration? migration has changed the demography of the UK. Migration from other parts of the world have led to greater ethnic diversity, while British nationals have also moved overseas. Those who migrate are often younger, either single or with young families, which also impacts on the average age of UK citizens. Migration has also led to greater multiculturalism in Britain, with greater ethnic diversity in the UK. It also has an impact on social policies, with the introduction of assimilationist policies such as the British citizenship test to encourage migrants to become part of British life. Contrasting approaches such as policies of integration have led to the development of hybrid cultures, merging aspects of British culture with those of other geographical areas. For example, British Asian culture, which influences music, cuisine, fashion, and other aspects of daily life. Some impacts of migration have had negative impacts on society. Migration has become a political issue over the last 15 years in the UK, particularly in the aftermath of terrorist attacks on September 11th and the 7th of July. Migration has been cited in debates on Brexit, with some opposing the free movement of individuals as a security concern. This has also led to a rise of nationalist feeling, with people reacting negatively to multiculturalism in the UK. And this has led to increases in the reporting of incidents of racially motivated crimes in the UK in recent years. Despite the benefits of migration to institutions such as education and the health service, migration has become a divisive issue in contemporary society, and this is something that sociologists have looked to examine and understand. That concludes this Tutor to You Sociology topic video on demographic trends in the UK, looking at migration. Thanks for watching.